everyone, welcome to my channel. If it's your first time joining, thank you. If you are a previous subscriber or you're coming from a previous video on my channel, welcome back. And as you can see, there is Luna the crafty kitty. She's coming to check out what we're going to do today. Okay, so what we will be doing today is I am going to show you some simple steps. Sorry about that. I'm going to show you some simple steps on how to do an embroidered t-shirt. Now, I have never done this before, so I am going to be learning this as I go along. I have been cramming on watching YouTube videos on how to do this, and it's pretty straightforward. And I think a lot of the things that will, if you're anything like me, that might stress you out is on how to center your designs on your shirt. So there are a lot of tools that you can buy that will help you center a design. But one of the easiest ways that I found is that with your shirt, you're going to fold your shirt in half, and it is better to, I Googled some of the embroidery sites I belong to on Facebook, and a lot of the ladies told me that no, they don't pre-wash their shirts. Some of them said, yes, we pre-wash everything, better safe than sorry. Some said if you're going to sell your shirts, don't wash them because then you have to label your products as pre-washed. It's an extra step, things like that. I went ahead and pre-washed every shirt that I plan on embroidering on, just to be safe. I don't want to have my design pucker. And then some of the ladies told me that pre-washing is just an extra step because if you prepare your shirt correctly, your design's not going to shrink or pucker. But like I said, just to be safe, I went ahead and washed everything. I always pre-wash my quilting fabric anyway. I do not like the smell of the dyes or any of the fixatives that they put on the fabric. And as I'm working for it, I tend to sneeze a lot from the smells and any of the, I guess the dust or whatever that fixative can kind of like wear away over as you're working. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, okay, so I have started to prepare this shirt, but I'm going to show you some of the products that we're going to use first. Of course, you're going to need your embroidery hoop. You are going to need a couple different types of stabilizer to ensure your project turns out well. And the first one you're going to want is a type of stabilizer that you can iron on to your shirt. You can use an iron-on tearaway, which this one is, and you can kind of see the little glue beads. And make sure you keep your manufacturer directions on how to attach the stabilizer to a shirt or whatever project you're going to be working on. Some of them require steam, some of them don't. So I'm not sure what this one is. It's just it's a Pellin, and I get it from Joann's. So you're going to need some type of iron-on tearaway, and then you're going to want a cutaway. Through my research, I learned that the cutaway is so much better. So I have a cutaway stabilizer, and this is what I'm going to be putting in the hoop. Then People are about 50-50 on this one. This is the, let's see if I can find like the top. Okay, so there's the, you can see that it looks like a cellophane. This is a water soluble stabilizer. And it's not really, I don't even know if it's called, it is called stabilizer. But a lot of people will call it a film or just water soluble or a wash away film. It does kind of have a little bit of a maybe like Elmer's glue smell to it. That's what the smell reminds me of. A little bit of that. So there, like I was saying, this is about a 50-50. Some people said use it. Some people said not use it. You don't need it. Not if you stabilize your shirt correctly. You won't need the topper. But again, I figured if most of the videos I've watched use the topper, I'm going to go ahead and do that as well. I'm going to shut my shades here really quickly. Okay, so again, let me reiterate that this project is going to be a do-it-yourself first time embroidering a t-shirt. So I know there are probably going to be some people that say, no, that's not correct. But this is what I have gathered through my research on how to do it as a beginner. So again, the stabilizer. And you're not going to need a giant piece of the film. You're just going to need a small piece, and you're going to put that where you know your design's going to be on your shirt, and you're going to tape it down so it stays. And I just use a masking tape, and I'll tape the corners down so it doesn't float and move around. If you're anything like me, I have a ceiling fan in my sewing room, so it might kind of like blow the stabilizer away a little bit. Okay, and this is the stabilizer that I am using. This is from Amazon. I buy it by the roll. It is, I think this one is 12 inches wide by, I think, 50 yards. And it's just easier for me to buy it on Amazon. I buy my paper stabilizer, my tearaway paper stabilizer. And I'm going to be trying to buy all my stabilizers online just to save money. So this is what I purchase. I'll try to remember to leave the link to this down below, and I will have a list of my supplies also. Okay, please excuse the cat hair on here. I did have these in a plastic bag, so I wouldn't get cat hair all over it, but you could see that Luna walked across the table. Okay, so the shirts I'm using are Athletic Works. And I purchased them in the men's area, and I believe they were $6.78 or $6.98 a shirt. And I am a bigger girl, so I like t-shirts to fit large on me. So I bought the men's 4X shirts, and these are 58/60s. So 4XL, and we'll do 58 to 60. So I purchased those. And I also had some older shirts in my closet that are a better t-shirt for in the winter. They're a little thicker. And these are Fruit of the Loom, and they are 100% cotton. So you can find shirts with pockets on them. You can find shirts without pockets on them. So whatever you're going to be embroidering, make sure that you kind of look to make sure there's not a pocket if you don't want that kind of thing. So there's that. And I am going to, I don't know if the black is going to show up better. Let's try on this other teal t-shirt. And I will show you an easy way to start your embroidery project. Okay. So of course you're going to cut your stabilizers that you need, and you're going to have those ready. And we'll put that aside. I have already prepped this shirt just to save a little bit of time. So what you're going to do is, again, like I said, if you haven't pre-washed your shirt, you can choose to do that, whatever. You are going to iron your shirt, make sure there's no wrinkles in it. And this one does have some wrinkles in it. It's an older shirt. I've had these for a couple years, and they've just been in the closet, never really worn them. They're just kind of hanging in there. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to fold your shirt in half and make sure everything lines up. So the collar, everything lines up. And kind of make sure there's no wrinkles. And that looks pretty good. You're going to want to kind of like finger crease your fold. You can press your seam, your center line, and that's what I first did. And this shirt in particular is a polyester rayon cotton blend, and it didn't really hold the fold very well, and I will show you how you can fix that. Okay, so what I did, I folded it in half. You can find your center by just kind of finger pressing, iron it if you wish. And then what I did from this point, I took my ruler, and I'm going to move this down just a little bit because I already have my embroidery unit on here, so it's just a little bit kind of large. So I took from the center armpit sleeve, and I want to go to the bottom of that. So if center armpit sleeve, the center armpit, the seam here that's in the shirt, and I want to make sure that that's kind of folded right on that, so the shirt lays nice and flat. And then what I did is I went to that seam, and of course you're going to have your 1-inch side over here. Let me see if I can do this with a tape measure instead. You'll have a little more room in your room on your table. So what I did with my ruler, I did this while I had it laid out on my ironing board. So I made sure that I measured from that seam to where my center of my shirt was, and this one is 13 1/4. So what I wanted to do then is I'm going to pick my shirt up, flip it back over so the fold's on your opposite side, then take that seam again and measure across, and this side is 13 1/2. So I'm off just a little bit. Some people that may bother, but you want to try to get your shirt as centered as possible. So I'm going to just kind of fix that a little bit. And you don't want to stretch. Okay. So let's see. Okay, it's still 13 1/2. Let me flip it back over and see if this side's any better. Okay, so now I'm at 13 1/2. So I've got it figured out that my center point from where I folded the shirt in half is going to be 13 1/2 along each side. So then you're going to open your shirt back up. And you can see that line that I kind of finger pressed there. And so then what I did is I took those seams. I'm going to grab the seam under the armpit and this seam under the armpit, and you're going to pick them up from each side, and you're going to shake your shirt out like so. So you get that nice straight line, and smooth it back out. And then what I did is if you're going to have your center seam just finger pressed, or you can mark it with your pen like I did on this shirt. So you can see I have my center lines marked like so, and you can mark your lines. So across, so this is going to be, right here is going to be my center point. So you'll have your center line down the front, and then your center line from your pit, and you're going to draw a line across that or iron that. So this is where it comes in now, that if you have a shirt that's not going to really hold that fold very well for you, what you can do is take your iron-on tearaway, turn your shirt inside out, and go ahead and iron that to the inside of your shirt. And you really don't want to skip this step of putting your iron-on stabilizer on your shirt, because what that's going to do is it's going to prevent the knit fabric from stretching and getting distorted while you are stitching out your embroidery design. Okay, so there's that. And once you have it ironed in there, you can do your little trick of folding it in half again. And let me find my seams. So you're gonna again fold your shirt in half. And I'm sorry I don't have this zoomed out a whole lot, but when you got your shirt folded in half and then you do your finger press, that line is going to stay on your shirt a little bit better. And I'm a little off right here because I don't have the shirt folded quite right. So now you can see that that crease kind of folded a little bit better, and it's going to stay in your shirt. And then while that was on there, then I went ahead and marked my line. I did the same thing from the armpit, and did that, and then finger press and marked my line. And I measured from the armpit sleeve to the armpits sleeve on this side where the seam was. Armpit sleeve. Why do I keep saying armpit sleeve? So the armpit seam, and I measured from the center line to the seam in the armpit, and each one was 15 1/4 across. Okay, so that is how I found my center point, and I went ahead and marked that. Now what I want to do is I'm going to move my shirt aside. I'm going to take my hoop, and I'm going to put the stabilizer, the cutaway stabilizer, into my hoop. And I don't like wasting a lot of stabilizer, so I just use the amount that I know is going to fit into my hoop. And I'm going to go ahead and hoop that. Oops. Get that in there. Okay. And you want to make sure that it's relatively tight. Loosen this a little just so I can make sure that we get it. Okay. And hoop your stabilizer, whatever technique you do to get your stabilizer in there. And I got my stabilizer in there nice. And I'm going to make sure it's tightened down. Make sure. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I want to hoop my shirt. So what I want to do is I don't want to since I'm using a smaller hoop, I have a large magnetic hoop, and I didn't want to cut such a large piece of stabilizer that I would have needed for my magnetic hoop. So I am just using my smaller one, and this is the one that popped up when I put my design in the machine. This is the size hoop that it said, and it's a 240 by 150, and you can see that my magnetic hoop is so much larger that I just did not want to use a lot more stabilizer that I didn't need. So that is why I'm not using my magnetic hoop today. But if you do have magnetic hoops, this next step that I show you is going to kind of prevent hoop burn on your shirt. If you're not familiar with what hoop burn is, it's when you put your item into a hoop, and then when you take it out, you get that ring on the hoop around your design, and it can kind of distort your design sometimes. It can leave marks on your shirt, and that's called hoop burn. So if you do have a magnetic hoop that's small enough, or if you want to use a large enough hoop and you want to cut that large piece of stabilizer, to each their own. So there's that. So like I said, I'm sorry, I'm kind of giggling over here. Luna just climbed inside one of my tote bags that I get from Joann's. I have some stuff in it. I just kind of like put projects inside tote bags, so they're all contained in one area. But she's in the bag over here, so if you hear kind of rustling, that's what that is. Okay, so like I said, we have hooped the cutaway stabilizer, and this is a medium weight cutaway. And then to put your shirt on, you have your iron-on cutaway or tearaway, whichever one you're using. And what I want to do now is I want to float. I'm going to float my shirt, and I'm going to I'm going to be using the June Taylor Quilt Basting Spray to float my shirt, and I'm going to go ahead and write. And normally I would not do the basting right here in the hoop. I would spray it off to the side, but for the sake of the video. Okay, so what you're now going to want to do is you're going to want to, you've got your center marks on your hoop, and you can see that one end might not look, so this one looks a little bit longer. This one up from this center to up here, that section looks a little bit longer, and that's just because FAF hoops have a kind of like dead space up here at the top. So I'm going to take my shirt, and where I have that center line marked, I want to match it up to my little notch. And I'm going to kind of pause the camera for a minute, and I need to open the door to let little Luna out. Give me just a moment. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so like I was saying, is you want to center your shirt onto your hoop, and I am going to try to get your folds. It will also help on your stabilizer to match up. So this one needs to be moved up a little. And that side looks good. And this one's off just a little bit. And I'm sorry I'm getting my big old head in there. And this one is... we are off a bit, so you can just kind of play with it until you get it positioned. And that's why I went ahead and marked as well with the water-soluble pen, to make sure that I was able to really see that line through the shirt. I'm not sure if you guys can see that on the video, but I'm able to see a faint line also through the shirt. So I'm trying to okay, so there we go. I have my lines. That one's good. That one's good. I have my top one. Okay. And then I'm just going to make sure it's all nice and pressed down on there. And this is one way to avoid any hoop burn that you may get on your shirts from, if, excuse me, you won't get that hoop burn on your shirt. And I'm going to spray, I think, just a little bit more right there. Just so I know that that stays on there well enough. I really don't want this to get really distorted. Okay. Or move at all. And I will be using a design that is in my machine, and I will show you that design. So I really have a thing for dragonflies, and it seems like I get surrounded by them a lot. I got a gift from my mom that had dragonflies and lightning bugs on it, and when I bought my FAF machine, I saw that I had this really pretty, simple dragonfly design in my book, and that's what that looks like. And this design is great size for a t-shirt. It's 5.34 inches wide by 8.11 inches long, and really simple. It's just 4 colors. It is a teal, a kind of a sky blue, a darker blue, and black. So what I wanted to do is, let me set my book aside. Since my shirt is teal, I wanted to use greens, and you can kind of see that the greens look really kind of pretty on here. My threads that I'll be using are the new Bro threads. These I purchased on Amazon. I do have them in one of my machine embroidery supply hauls. And I get some of them come in 3 spool packs and some come in 6. And the greens were kind of like in different packs. So I just kind of got the greens that I really liked. And I really think the greens look good on this light teal shirt. So that's what I'll be using. It's only 4 colors, 3 different shades of blues, teals, whatever you're going to use. I'm using the greens, and then a black. So that's what I'll be using. Before I do that, I tape my thread tails so they don't kind of unravel. Okay, so now what I want to do is I'm going to take my film and I'm going to just kind of like lay it over the top. and kind of just guess. And I gotta find my little scissors here. Okay, so I'm just gonna cut that. Just gonna put a notch here. And I should have had this piece cut already, but it kind of slipped my mind. So I'm gonna just put a little notch there. And I'm just doing it enough to cover the inner dimension of my hoop, because I'm not going to need, it's not going to go any further than that, of course. So I'm going to just put a little notch in there. And same with up here. Let me move my shirt aside. And I'm going to lay that out so this is actually how I cut my vinyl as well. So this is like a, how big is this? 8 by 7 by 11 kind of. So I'm just, this is how I cut my vinyl though also. I make little marks and then I just lay it out over my ruler and just cut it out that way. And I'm sorry if I'm getting my head in there. Okay, so there is our piece of soluble film, and we're just going to fold this back up. It is so hot today. We've had such weird weather here in New Mexico. Okay, move my scissors aside. And I'm just going to be using a white bobbin because it's going to be hidden on the inside of the shirt. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust the camera to the front of the machine, and I will be right back. Okay, so I have the machine here in front of us. What we're going to do is we are going to select our design, and I'm going to hit my design right here. You can see my in machine. These are the designs that came with the machine. It comes up, and I'm going to scroll through till I find my design, and it's almost at the very end. So right here are my dragonflies, and you will see it pop up on screen. And it has, it came up, I set my machine for the 360 by 200 frame, and that's my magnetic frame, and I decided it was too big. So we're just going to go with the 240 by 150, and you can see that the design gets a little bit larger for the smaller hoop. I'm going to select my threads, and I know I'm going to be using greens, so I'm going to hit my first option, and I'm going to go with my lightest green, and we're just going to select that one. Okay. Then my next green is going to be my little bit of a darker green, and I'm going to okay that one. Then my darkest color for the bodies is going to be my, which kind of green do I want? I think I want the, so these are my greens that I'm using. Let me show you that. So my light green, then I'm going to use this bright green and this kind of, well, let's kind of do it that way. I'm going to do this kind of like Christmas green for the body. And so we're going to just set that to the darkest green and okay that. So it changes my colors in screen, and then I have my black, and that is going to be the bodies of the dragonflies, and everything looks okay. So I'm gonna, whoops, I'm gonna okay that. Okay. So now what I want to do is I want to hit my embroidery stitch out, which is this one, and it's going to tell me attach my hoop. So we going to do that. And you need to be really careful when you're attaching your hoop, because with the t-shirt, you don't want to get it caught in any of the machine, the embroidery frame. Okay, so I'm going to, let me actually kind of just tilt this a little so you can see what I'm doing. So now I need to get the shirt up under the needle and onto the, so I need to slide the back portion of the t-shirt up underneath the machine first, because we're going to have that all gathered up, and pull that through until you get through to your neck. So there you can see my neck opening. And now I want to make sure I am using a dynamic spring foot on my machine, and it kind of flexes, so it just kind of moves. So I just kind of like have to tilt my frame up a little to get it under it. And I'm going to attach it over here. And if any of you are familiar with previous videos on my channel, you will know that I experienced something kind of like almost catastrophic, that my embroidery unit broke. And I had purchased my machine from a used dealer, and the previous owner was moving the embroidery unit by the arm of the machine, and there's a little section back here in the back of the frame, the embroidery unit arm, that's metal, and from her picking that up, she bent it. So one day I went to go put my embroidery unit on so I could use it, and it just, it had enough and it broke. I did not know that it was bent, and I was really devastated. And it cost me $700 to purchase a new unit, and that, if I would have bought one in box with the suitcase, the travel suitcase for them, the storage suitcase, and frames, it would have been $2,000, and I was able to get it for $700. So, long story there to get to this point. When I always attach my hoops now, or my frames, to my embroidery unit, I hold this down, because I don't want to be pushing on it a lot when I'm sliding the hoop into the locking mechanism. So I hold this down so it doesn't flex. So I popped my frame in. I'm going to move my shirt a little bit, and I want to make sure, sorry about moving the camera there, I want to make sure that I don't have any of the shirt up underneath the embroidery hoop. So that looks good. There are things that you can purchase for certain frames that are like hoop guards, things like that. You can roll your shirt and tape it, things like that. But I think what I'm going to do is, I have some of these little clips, and I have some that are even smaller than this, and I'm going to have to dig them out. And I'm just going to kind of clip that so that part of that shirt stays right there. And I will make sure that this is kind of rolled up a little. Okay. And make sure the shirt's all in there. And my design is almost right on the center mark. So it looks like I did really well on that. I'm happy with where the placement is, so I'm just going to leave it. If you do have a design that you're going to have to center, you're going to want to go into your settings for your particular machine, and you're going to want to center your design. Look in your manual on how to do that, because for different machines the steps are a little bit different, but mine's like within maybe, let's see, let's put my needle down. Needle down. It's not going to let me put needle down, so I'm going to just use my hand wheel. So it's maybe right there. I can turn my wheel back up a little. I can kind of just pull that down a little bit. And it could be that when I was putting the shirt in the hoop, I was just a little bit off. But I am okay with that placement. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to hit my, okay, so it changed position to where the design is going to start. I am going to pause the video so I can move the camera to get a little closer to thread the machine, and I will be right back. Okay, so I have the machine threaded, and my next step is to put the water-soluble film onto my shirt. And I have a couple pieces of masking tape. I'm just going to kind of tape that down, and so I'm just going to like loosely tape it. And I think I want to move it over to the left just a little bit more. And I want to make sure that I'm not really moving my shirt around too much. So make sure this is all kind of in the hoop. And I want to make sure that I get it on there where I'm not getting a lot of wrinkles in it as well. So I'm trying not to distort it too much. I just want to kind of like have it float kind of like above that design. And one up here at the top as well. Okay. So now we are got a little bit of a wrinkle right there. Pull that back up a little. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead, and I'm happy with the placement. Everything looks okay. I'm going to make sure my shirt is not in the frame so it gets bound up in it. So this is a kind of design, kind of project that you really want to kind of stick close to your machine to watch it so nothing gets caught up under the hoop, so you're not stitching double layers of the shirt, anything like that. So the stabilizer looks okay. I may have to adjust it once it gets going a little more. And I think I'm going to put another little piece of tape right there in that corner. And again, I'm going to tell you that this is based on beginners. I I did have a rather rude person, in my opinion it was rude, tell me that when I was doing the videos for the Brother SE625 machine, that you really don't know this machine. That it doesn't seem like you know this machine. I'm out of here. So I commented back to her that if you would have bothered watching and listening to the actual videos, you will know that my channels are my videos, and my channel is based on DIY, learning as we go. I'm learning to do something as you are learning to do something. So I will specify in my videos whether this is a project I've done before or whether it's something new. So yeah. So I'm going to make sure that I really make sure to tell everybody that this video, that the videos are do it yourself, first time. I'm learning this one to do a t-shirt for the very first time. So if there are mistakes, I will be learning from those mistakes as we go along. And I know that the stabilizer is kind of wrinkly, but it's just kind of a wrinkly stabilizer anyway. So we're just going to kind of have to work with it. Okay, so I'm going to hold my thread tail. I am going to hit my stitch out. It's going to take, okay, it took us back to the center, and I did not want to do that. So, okay, so now what I want to do is we're just going to hit start. Okay, and here we go. And I'm going to stop because I want to slow down the speed. Okay, I have learned the hard way on some designs that my speed on my machine, the default is the center on my speed adjustment. It's set at center all the time, and I like to put it down the second from the lowest. So we're going to go, I went ahead and set that, and we're going to continue on. And I'm going to stop again, cut this thread tail. I'm going to go into my machine really quick to see if I have my not question, info. Nope, tools. Why am I thinking info? To see if I have my, okay, so I have my my machine set to cut my jump stitches and to cut my thread snips. Sorry about that, I hit the camera. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and continue on. I do not like to stop all the time to cut my thread tails. This particular design, I may not have had to use the film on top, but just going by what other more experienced machine embroidery sewers, machine embroidery sewers, from their experience, they say to use the film. There are several others, like the professional OED. I think that's OE. I think it's OED embroidery. They their videos showed to use the film. So we're going to just go ahead and do it the way they say it. This particular portion is going to take 12 minutes to stitch out. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, and when it's finished stitching out, I will be back. Okay, so I have finished with the first color. I am going to switch colors now, and I'm just clipping my thread at the top, and I pull it through. I don't pull my thread back out from the top. I've seen some people that do it, and then Others say not to do that because it messes up the tension discs of your machine. So I'm going to be honest, sometimes I do it anyway, and I really need to get in the habit of not doing that. Okay, so I am switching to the middle green shade, and I'm going to try to thread the machine here without turning back off. Okay. Get in there, okay. Okay, and with this machine, it just barely puts a little loop through that needle. So I have to grab it with tweezers to pull it through. And I just pull it through and stick my thread end down through the foot, and we're going to continue on. And I actually did increase the speed back up higher, and I'm going to cut this thread tail before we go further. I increased it actually up above the middle range. This particular section is going to take 7 minutes to stitch out, and when it completes, I will be back. Okay, so we had a little accident here while working along, and I actually broke the needle. So I'm going to be changing the needle. I have the, you can actually see that the needle bent, and I think what happened was my thread got caught on the spool and it got too tight and it just actually snapped the thread. So that's another reason why you don't want to leave your machine, is that things like this can happen, and I will have to go back. I usually like to go back 20 to 25 stitches, so I know I covered the area that maybe where the needle broke. I don't know exactly that area. Sometimes I'll only go back 10, but I do like to go back at least 20, 25. Okay, so I think one of my problems that possibly could have happened as well is that I am using just a regular 7511 needle for embroidery, and what I should be using is one of these. I don't know if you can see that. It's a Schmetz Jersey needle, and you can see I have some 7010s, some 8012s, 9014, and I'm going to use the 7010, and that is just for a stretch material. So see how I get this needle out of here. Okay, so I am going to pause, change the needle, and I will be right back. Okay, so actually I was going to change the needle off camera, but might as well go ahead and do it. I use one of these needle threaders to hold the needle because I know that the flat portion of the needle will be incorrectly. And I kind of make sure that it's pushed up, finger tighten, and then I take I got a stubby little screwdriver, and I don't tighten it super tight, just where it's tight enough. And then we will take it back off, and I'm going to rethread. And if any of you are familiar with FAF machines, this is a little trick I learned from somebody, I believe it was on one of the FAF videos I watched, and there's a little trick to make sure that your needle, or I'm sorry, that your thread is in the grooves of your machine. So I'm going to tilt you up just a little bit. Oops. And hopefully you can see that. So I'm going to grab my top thread up here, and where I have it, the thread through all the little portions, and you grab it and you seesaw it back and forth. Just a couple times, and that's just to make sure that the thread is in the tension discs. And I'm going to, come on, get up there. On my Brother machine, the little hook down here is on the right side. On the FAF, it's on the left side. And for me, the needle threader is like in the way. So you really have to kind of like pay attention to get it in there just right. And I'm probably not going to be able to thread it with the actual needle threader. Yeah, it's not going to go in there. So we're just going to pull this down. Make sure my needle's all up. Yeah. My foot wasn't all the way up, so I'm going to cut that thread and re-thread it through the top portion of the machine. Whoops, sorry about that. That way I know that the thread is threaded correctly. And I'm actually going to take this thread net that I have on my and move it down because it's causing some problems. There we go. Okay. So make sure it's threaded correctly. Do my little seesaw, and that could be why it wasn't wanting to go into the thread the needle correctly, because I didn't have the foot all the way up. Yeah, I don't think it's going to thread right. Yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to finish threading the machine off camera, and I'll be back in a moment. Okay, so I got my machine threaded. I kind of had to get really down in there to see behind that little tiny... Okay, so I'm going to put my foot down, and I'm going to take my stitches back a few stitches like I was saying, and I'm going to tilt you over here so you can see. That's what this plus and minus is. This button is if I wanted to go all the way back and select the stitch that I knew it would be. I've stitched 950 stitches in this particular color, and I don't know what the stitch was, so I just take it back by the minus button. So I'm going to just count 25 back. 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, so I'm going to have to go back. I'm watching over here, and I'm hoping it's not going to... I'm going to take it back to 900. So I am actually taking it back 50 stitches. And I did say that I usually only take it back sometimes 10, sometimes 20, 25. But I'm not sure with this design because I didn't see exactly where it broke. So I want to make sure that I am stitching over parts that may have broke or that may have skipped. So not a big deal if you're stitching over it again because it is such a fine design. Okay, so I'm going to hold my thread tail again and I'm going to hit start. Okay, so I'm going to pause, I'm going to cut that thread tail, and yes, it does look like it is stitching over some design that previously stitched. I'm fine with that. So let's go ahead and continue so you can see that. Okay, okay, so that is good that I went back that far. It is stitching over this whole wing area, and I'm okay with that. So I'm going to pause, let it continue stitching, and I'll be back. Okay, so we just finished the second color of green, and we are going to change our thread again. So I'm going to cut up at the top, pull the thread out, and we're going to do our last shade of green, and I'm winding my thread up here off camera, and we have 2 more colors to go. So we have our darkest green, or my brightest green that I've chosen, and then we're going to do the black, and then the shirt will be done. At least the stitching portion will be done. So give me just a moment to get it threaded, and I'll get the next section started, and I will show you that. Give me just a moment. Okay, so I have the last green color threaded onto the machine. So I'm going to go ahead and start the stitching. It's doing a little bit of a satin stitch. I'm going to stop and cut that thread tail and let it continue. And this design, this portion is only going to take 2 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and just let it continue stitching so you can see it. It's stitching out the body of the dragonflies. Going to move to the next one, and I'm going to stop that for a minute because that thread tail is pretty tight. Okay, so let me cut this one up here so it doesn't get in the way. I think this is going to turn out really cute. I think the black is going to be an outline or like an accent on the bodies and around the edges of the wings. Okay, so we're moving on to this one. And these wrinkles aren't going to make much of a difference since it's water soluble. It's just going to dissolve right out. And I'm sorry about the glare. The sewing machine light is causing a glare right on the stabilizer. Okay, so I'm going to pause and let this continue stitching out, and I will be back in just a moment. Okay, so I'm now on my last color, which is black, and we're going to go ahead and start. I'm going to pause and cut the thread, the jump thread, or the thread tail. And this is just going to be outlining the wings, the body portions, and after this we will be finished. So this is going to take 9 minutes, so I'll let it stitch for a minute or two, and then I will stop and restart when it is finished. So you can see it stitching out, outlining some of the portions of the wing or the wings. This is really, I think the black is really going to make this part of the design kind of like really pop out. I'm going to just continue letting that film and let you guys watch for a few minutes. Okay, you can see, you can hear where it was getting kind of like weird sounding right there, and that was doing some, I believe it was doing satin stitch. So now we're going to move to another portion. Okay, so I'm going to pause it, and it's got another 9 minutes or 7 minutes to stitch out. When that's done, I will come back, we'll take it off the machine, and we will show you the almost finished result. So be back soon. Okay, so we are almost completely done with the stitch out. There is 1 minute left. I had to actually pause because I ran out of the bobbin thread. My machine has the sensor, and there was just a little bit of thread on there, so I probably would not have had enough to finish the design, so I went ahead and changed my bobbin thread. It's a common thing on embroidery machines. It will tell you when your bobbin thread's almost empty, so it will not mess up your design. Okay, I think we're done with stitching. Oh, nope, just a little portion, I think, left. Okay, I'm not sure why maybe that was just the tie off. My machine over here is telling me that embroidery is finished. So I'm going to hit OK. It's going to take it to a park position. I am going to pause, readjust the camera to the overhead view, and I will show you our next step. Okay, so we have the shirt off of the hoop. I am going to get a pair of scissors, and I keep everything in a little box so it's handy, and for Miss Luna, the crafty kitty, so she does not get into things. She is a really nosy little girl. Okay, so I still have the hoop inside the shirt. Our next step is we are going to remove the tape. And I'm really glad I did use such a large piece of this film. I did get one little spot that is right here on this tip of this dragonfly wing that has a little bit of tape in it, but I am able to pick that right off the stitching. And you can see that it didn't do any damage to the wing at all. So if you use, I just used some old tweezers that I had, and they were kind of just old cheap pair of tweezers, and I didn't really use them for anything anymore, like plucking eyebrows, things like that. So I ground the tips down. I had my husband file the tips down, and now they're just like a really nice kind of pointy. I think you can see that okay. So they're pointy, and I'm able to kind of like get into areas. So now what I want to do is, the video showed that some people will cut away your excess film. So you don't want to get too close to your stitching, but you want to try to get within like 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch. I didn't like those scissors, so I'm going to use my little pair of Fiskars here, and I'm going to try to get in, because I don't want to have to really soak my shirt so much to dissolve this stabilizer. Some people will just use a water bottle and squirt it, but I don't think this is, I think this is a heavier water soluble. It's because, I mean, you can see that it's kind of thick, and I don't want to be having to spray that much water. I'd rather just like submerge the shirt. Okay, so I have cut around most of it. I could get in here and cut all that out, but I don't want to risk cutting my shirt with my scissors. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen my hoop. Oh, you know what? Yes, we do have to loosen the hoop because we floated the shirt onto the cutaway stabilizer. I was going to say, no, we didn't have to do that. But I'm going to remove my hoop, and I'll put this up here. And you can see that you have your jump stitches. And what some people will do now is they will cut away all their jump stitches, and that's fine. I think I'm going to go ahead and clip some of them without. So you'll want to do that. You'll clip your stitches. Some people will use a, I'm trying to think of the correct name for it without saying it wrong, but there is a product that is another type of, I believe it's a stabilizer or a I'm not exactly sure what it is, but it's something that you, after you've cut away your stabilizers, your tearaway or your stabilizer, there's a no-show mesh that you can iron onto the back of your design so you don't get the tickle or the irritation from your design. I will have to look that up and let you know in another video what that is. So I'm just cutting all these away, and I will make sure they're all nice and cut. If I was going to be gifting this shirt, I would definitely do the no-show mesh to kind of cover it. It's a really soft product that you use like on the back of like baby, or on the inner portion of baby items, so it doesn't irritate baby skin. And I'm just kind of continuing to kind of cut these away. And so I got most of them cut away, but what I'm going to do is I don't want all this giant piece of the, so now I can just remove. You can see that the tearaway, I'm going to go ahead and pull all that back up off the shirt. And there are products that you can leave on here that you don't have to remove them. It's another type of stabilizer that you can just iron on and leave on. Okay, so now I'm just going to kind of cut without getting, I'm pulling it up right next to the stitching without distorting the stitching, and I want to get right up to it within, I'm going to go within a 1/4 inch, I think. And I'm going to just trim away. And you can see I'm holding it up, and the reason is because I can see where my stitches are, and I'm kind of paying attention to the underside, so I'm not cutting into my shirt. And I kind of want to follow my shape of my design, and you can see I'm just cutting that away. And this was actually a very fast design. So I'm going to try to get as much in this area. You can see I'm putting my finger in there, and I'm going to try to cut as much of this away without cutting my design or my shirt. And we still have that on the front, the water soluble. So I have my finger inside here, so I'm not going to cut the shirt. And I don't want to make sure I'm not. And okay, go back this way. And this is probably the most tedious part, I think, removing the stabilizer once you're finished. And basically, that is all you have to do. I'm going to get the rest of all this cut away, and then I will be right back. Okay, so I have my stabilizer cut away, and you can see that's how much I have left on the inside. I could go in and remove these little areas. I may do that after I wash it. I'm not sure yet. This is a pretty soft stabilizer, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do as the finished portion yet, or if I may just leave it like that. So we're going to turn it back out and shake it a little, and there is our finished shirt. We just now have to remove the film, and I am going to go put it in some water, and I will be back. Okay, so this is what the finished shirt looks like. You can still, you can still see the stabilizer on the inside. I will work on trimming that away a little bit more. The shirt is wet. I just dunked it in the sink to remove the film. And that is what my finished t-shirt looks like. It went really easy. You can see that the lines that I used to center my design washed away as well. This is the type of pen I use for that. This is just a fine point Mark Begone brand pen, and it's a water soluble ink, and that's what I used for that. Again, I mentioned in the video that I did break a needle, so make sure that before you start your project you use a jersey needle. I don't know if these were ballpoint needles. Some people say that for stretch materials you use ballpoint, but I just used the jersey needle, and once it had broke, everything else worked out really good. Yeah, for a very first time embroidering a t-shirt, I am really pleased with how it turned out. I held it up to myself in the mirror, and I like the placement of it. It's centered. I could have rotated the design so it was long ways, but I would have had to use a larger hoop to do that, or hoop the shirt a different position. But yeah, I'm really pleased with the way it turned out. If anybody has any questions, please leave a comment down below. I am going to try to get this edited and posted tonight. It's currently 9:30 in the evening, and I think I'm going on like the 4th or 5th day of having a video posted. Let me double check that. We are at, let's see, 5 days ago I posted the last video, so I am going to have to get this edited and posted for you guys tonight. Hopefully that won't take too long, but the night for me is still young since I usually don't go to bed until 3, 4 in the morning anyway. So, but I had to cram and get this video done for you guys, so it's still within this week. I do not know yet what my next video will be, so that may be a surprise. But yeah, please comment down below. Let me know what you think of this video. If there's any other maybe tips that you can give if you have machine embroidered shirts before, please comment down below also. Yeah, I think the only thing I would have changed different on it is to rotate the design and turn it the opposite way. But like I said, I really like the way it turned out. For a first time, I don't think it's bad. So we will all see you in the next video. If you haven't liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe. Hit that little bell icon. That'll notify you when a new video is posted. And we will see you all soon. Thank you. Goodbye and good night.